thank you for taking the time and for your attention. Today is January 20th, 2026. So we're 20 days into the calendar event of 2026. This is a Tuesday Digital World Town Hall meeting where we basically focus on the last week's prior objectives, or at least the things that were accomplished, any kind of walls that we may have run into, anything we need help with, and then just a general counsel. It's Q&A, open questions. Anybody can ask, anybody can drive. And we just want to make sure that everyone is aware of what's happening. And if there's things that don't feel right, we're honest about it. And we bring it up and we do course corrections. And this is a council environment to be able to do that. There is no right or wrong topics. I'm actually in Utah with a team of a lot of folks, about a dozen folks that are here with us today, setting up. We're preparing for about 300 people tomorrow, and we'll tell you a little bit about that. But first, we're going to get kicked off with an opening prayer by John. We're grateful for those that understand that some people may look at this and think, there's not a spiritual thing here or a political thing here. And I want you to know, I emphatically agree with you that some of the things we're talking about has to be neutral. But I also know that, at least for me personally, that none of this would be possible, at least to the level that we're at today, without understanding that everything happens spiritually before it happens physically, and that each of us individually are collective creators. And through just understanding those two simple concepts and then really just putting things in the right order can actually make a difference. And actually, speaking of the right order, Wally, would you open us up, and then John, could you close us? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay, so Wally, it's all you, bud. If you're good with that. You can just come over here if you want.
Can they hear from here?
Yeah.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for the opportunity we have to come together as a collective body who is focused on decentralization and protecting privacy and offering choice for mankind. We ask you to bless us this evening, this afternoon, this morning, wherever we are at. Help us to receive inspiration. Help us to know the things that we should do to press this work forward. Please bless us as we do so in finding others who are like-minded and those who can contribute to the cause. We are grateful for the platform that Michael has built and others have helped assemble, and we hope that we're able to honor that and to help that go forth and become what we know that it can. And we ask special blessings for any of those in our group or in our families or our extended friends who are in need of special blessings, who might be having challenges. And we ask you to bless them. And these things we humbly pray for in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for the co-hosts that are here, and thank you for the audience that's around the world. For those of you that we've got people that wake up 2, 3 in the morning and they just come in and they just involved. We're grateful for all of those, both digitally, physically, and even in spirit, and those that may be joining us remotely. As a reminder, this is a private membership association. Some of the things we might talk about may be forward-looking, and the things that we discuss and focus on is a counterbalance or an alternative to secret combinations that basically want to centralize humanity. And not that that's been a crazy thing that's like terrible, but when you link that with the control mechanisms and actually the desire and intent behind some of these secret combinations, that's where choice is taken away. And really the effort and energy of decentralization can be that counterbalance. So we talk a little bit about different industries. Maybe it's oil, maybe it's banking, maybe it's health, maybe it's finance, maybe it's media. But ultimately, the technology is an element that can actually provide a framework and an infrastructure that can actually enable decentralization, where private environments and public environments that historically have really gotten it off balance. And what I mean by that is, for instance, have you ever seen any of the commercials where someone comes up to you and says, you need to give me your identity or your papers or your card or your driver's license? And the people that are asking for it won't ever give you their name, but they're the ones that are public servants. Has anybody just thought about that experience? Well, this private and public combinations has nothing to do with that. It's something that is behind the scenes and deeper. But the net is, when you give the power to the individual through a process of decentralization, it literally decentralizes not just the individual, but the whole structure. And so the digital world is an environment that has basically worked through, over the last 16 years, 10 different layers of identity, payments, storage, governance, and many other elements that tie together to enable the individual to truly own their own identity and data, even when systems start to crumble, like half the world goes off on web or power or infrastructure. Imagine an ecosystem where something like that would actually happen, but yet it can still be retained. It can still be up. It can still be accessed. These are some of the layers that we were just talking about. There's some additional ones that you can actually find within some of the documentation, which we'll go through. For those of you that may not be aware, there's an extensive piece of documentation that's standing up, and it's even being built in such a way where AI engines can be pointed to it, and then you can do other things with it. So you can develop different line of business apps. You can do tons of different things around, hey, these are products, this is a company, and we don't want to do things the old way. We want to actually do identity and payments a new way. And literally it enables software to be built like that. And with a click of a button, it can be hosted. With a click of a button, it can be sent. The code can be sent to the individual. So for those that may not be aware of, when we say decentralization, what that really is it's really, you get 12 words and then you link it with who you are as an individual. And if you're using an Apple phone or a Google phone or a Clear phone, usually the way you link it is happening in different ways. And so we'll go through pieces of that, but ultimately the goal and objective is to take the physical world that we all have the opportunity, amazing opportunity to live in, and connect that with the world in a very identity and keys and payments, and really the ability for the future of identity, which includes key rotation and restoration of keys. So if you lose them, how do you get it back? I mean, there's so much to it. And then derived keys. And derived keys is a big key part of it. For those of you that may not have been aware, last year, by the way, the digital world has a bunch, it's owned by no one. Like literally every single voice and person that's on this call today has an equal voice as to everyone that would want to be involved. There is no hierarchical structure to it. It works off of councils. It doesn't work off of kingdoms or kings or queens or presidents or prime ministers. It literally is all of us together and have a vote. The question is, what's the question? And in 2025, we came up with what is the single goal that we need to focus on, and then 5 different team commits that tied into those. We've retired those. If you want to look at those, you can kind of see them in 2025. But in 2026, it's primarily focused on helping the individual to know that there is a choice. They can own themselves and they can literally lock in their own value. The ability to have a vault of their own, so data storage, the ability to actually run parallel systems within a jurisdiction. Primarily the state of Utah is what we're heavily focused on, even though we've spent time in almost 30 countries around the world and have stood up at least 10 to 12 solid environments. Utah is where we're putting really all the wood behind that arrow, so to speak, and our focus and our attention. And then rolling out by the end of the year what we call Life AI or Clear AI, which is basically, it links to all of your own data that's decentralized, and it runs in a decentralized approach off of your phone instead of off of centralized systems, which is what all of AI is actually doing these days. Tomorrow, Sundance. And Sundance has this thing called the Film Festival, and it's been going on for well over 20 years. And it just so happens that tomorrow is the last day that it's actually going to be here in Utah, because the following day they're going to wrap up the last one, and they call it the Last Dance. And so when I talk about that, we're specifically talking about the Sundance Film Festival, from where folks come from around the world to actually be able to debut certain things that they've built, maybe short films, maybe long films, maybe different things, maybe some form of art. And then from there, they basically say, we want to fund this and we want to drive adoption and awareness. And it just, and then they have awards. And it really has been an amazing thing. And this man who actually just recently passed away, Robert Redford, a wonderful, absolutely added a lot of value on this world, in this world. Like for me personally, this man, he stands up for somebody that actually went against the grain. He was in Hollywood and he says, I'm going to do it a different way. He literally said this little crack in this canyon, this Provo Canyon, is going to be this special place that we're actually going to bring artists that want to think, they want to get away, especially from LA and Hollywood, and they want to actually be a part of the world. And there's an institute that basically said, we're going to go out and do a review of what's happening, and we'll see if Utah wants us here. Utah came up with $21 million to keep them, and Colorado came up with $34 million, and it just so happens the Sundance Film Festival moved, at least made the determination to move. And then Robert Redford passed away. And what happens here in the next little while is actually an amazing shift that you're going to see, a transformation. So it's not just what happened in the past, so to speak, but you're going to see some elements of a shift of people that actually want to come together. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about is an event, the first event that we're going to actually launch tomorrow, which is the Sundance Funding Festival. So it's not around films. It's so much more than films. It's organizations, it's trust, it's people. And really, when we understand it, it's the person that actually funds something. It's the person that says, hey, we're going to actually
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you.
We can
Yeah,
all hear
I
you.
can hear you. I think we've lost Michael altogether. That's the same for everyone else.
I can hear you guys.
Yeah,
Can you hear me? Testing. Can you guys hear me?
Hey, Scott.
Testing. Can you guys hear me okay?
Hello there.
Hey, Scott, you driving?
Oh boy.
I am.
So can you
All right.
guys hear me okay?
Their system crashed for a second, so we're just waiting.
Can you guys hear me okay?
I can't hear you.
No.
Very good.
Do you know if Brandy's going to jump on?
I thought she was on.
She might be in the room with Michael. They're in Utah.
Okay, perfect. Oh, she may be there then. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Can you guys not
Send
hear
Daniel.
information.
Yeah. I had no idea what I was coming to, but if Brandy sent me, I'm coming.
Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys hear me okay now?
Yeah, Scott, we got to talk more about what we're
Testing.
talking about too. So
Yeah, no.
let me know when we can follow the conversation up.
Definitely.
All right.
Can you guys hear me
Well,
now?
Danielle's the only one with her camera on. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. A little cold in Montreal, but
Oh,
keeping
God,
warm.
I can- Yeah,
Testing,
I'm originally from Michigan. They had a 100-car pileup yesterday.
Oh, for
Oh,
goodness
man.
sake. Oh, wow.
100. Yeah, it's
Testing.
just sad. I mean, I'm in Texas now, but
Can you guys hear me okay now?
We're on the same.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Testing.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So what, did you miss all of that before?
Oh, yes,
Yes,
we missed everything.
everything.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Missed
That's,
everything.
that's sad. That's really sad. There's a lot of stuff there. It's so sad.
Can
Well,
you guys
thank
hear
you.
me okay?
Thank you for coming and
Yes.
actually joining in on the fun. I mean, yeah. So we'll go ahead and get started from here. So hopefully folks can actually hear. One of the real nice, amazing announcement that we want to basically tell folks about is, even though Sundance Film Festival is planning to shift from Utah to Colorado and has been here from the inception, and actually Sundance is not going anywhere, at least there's a beautiful resort that just got built, and where Robert Redford made his mark is never going to basically disappear. And so the legacy of the Sundance Film Festival can shift. They can go focus on what they want to, but the same ability for individuals to actually be an individual, which I think is a part of what Sundance stands for. It's life, it's movement, it's action. And for the individual to actually be themselves, number one, around identity. And then number two, around the ability to actually fund things. And that's why it's called Sundance Funding Festival. Happens once a year. It'll happen the week before the Sundance Film Festival or the week after. We're not going to compete with them. We'll work with them. But the reality is we're staying here in Utah, and we're going to build an environment that is disruptive, primarily because we have a technology infrastructure that is more than disruptive. Whether we talk about identity and payments and other things, but this environment is literally going to change the way that communication is had and identity is had and payments is had and storage and the methodology around technology and how individuals own it today. For instance, in this last year, AI has come out and it is taking over, I think, bigger than anything. Any social platform, any search platform, AI is literally doing much more than that. And when you look at some of the things that we're talking about, imagine the ability for the individual to own their own identity and their own data instead of the centralized models that tie to that. But then you enable other founders to be able to build businesses on top of that. And that is what the Sundance Fund is primarily around, is businesses that actually say, hey, we want to build this and this and this around it. And so what we're going to do tomorrow is we're actually taking a bunch of CEOs that have basically done 20 different events. 5 CEOs in 20 different locations all around the world have basically come together into one place. We're taking the best of all of those from 20 shows all throughout the United States and other parts of the world, and literally taking them and saying, hey, here's a concept. Go pitch it. And they got 15 minutes to build it, pitch it, and then they can come back in and pitch another one. And so you're going to understand who these people are first, and then you're going to understand what they're actually doing, and the world will be able to actually vote on who they are and what they're doing. And then it flows into what we call the Deal Flow Show, which is around the world. So one, we're kicking off a stage here in Utah. This is actually the stage here. So you can kind of see it's a large environment. So this will be an environment where once a month, we basically do a show that talks about this digital world, how it delivers, how it works, and then we'll actually launch different assets. So some of the assets may be real estate. Some of the assets may be a company. Some of the assets may be a concept. Some of the assets may be somebody, as much as I don't talk about this, somebody taking an artifact and throwing it on the moon, or doing some crazy thing that others haven't even thought about, because that's the difference between what's happening with AI and robots and what we all are here on Earth. We're human, we're alive, and we actually have life. And it's proof of life that can actually enable us to come together in community, working together. How do we actually build things? How do we sustain life from a decentralized approach? Because if supply chain isn't an issue and you're growing your own food, you have clean water, you've got fresh air, you have the ability to have commerce and basically work together, whether it's reputation or others. A lot of the centralized controls don't have a mechanism. So it's one thing to say there's technology that can actually be a solution to this, but it's another thing to actually say, we're actually going to live this. Which, by the way, this last week, we had 2 weddings down there in Aotearoa / New Zealand. And the goal is to actually have some more of them here in a little while. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well, but that's a different topic. So to attend, you basically request access. There's going to be one of these every 90 days, but the actual festival will happen once a year. So that goes over kind of the little details around it. Now I'll jump into some of the environments that I'll actually specifically have. So it's around, one, the business, the asset, the actual founder, the cut to get in, and then how that ties to what we call the Deal Flow Show. And I'm going to quickly just play a video here that may help you to understand how these things can come together and tie the. Actually, you know what? If I'm going to do that and everybody's going to get it online, I have to play that over here. Actually, over here. So give me a second. So what I'm going to show you is 5 founders that are basically competing, but it's not just for judges that are local, it's the whole world. So I hope that.
Imagine a tree which can grow almost at the same rate as bamboo.
I own a chocolate factory that manufactures the purest chocolate in the world.
Many of the plants that we consider to be normal food have unlocked new medicine compounds that we've never even seen before.
Welcome to the Deal Flow Show, where bold ideas meet big money. This is the ultimate high-stakes pitch competition, where world-changing entrepreneurs pitch their impact-driven startups to a panel of legendary super angel investors.
Sounds like you do have something cool, but you're going to need a lot of structure and guidance around what you're trying to do. I'm Layla Setner. My mission is to invest in people, ideas, and innovations that uplift humanity.
Why has this not been used yet? I'm Valerio Spinaci. I'm an attorney, an entrepreneur, and an impact investor. I like to invest in technology that makes the world a better place.
Every episode, a guest celebrity super angel handpicks 5 startups they're curious about and introduces them to the panel.
I feel that we can do something extraordinary here. I'm Alok. I'm a DJ and producer for the last 21 years, and I'm here trying to make this world a better place.
We use force fields and frequencies to optimize and to amplify the plants, the biology in the soil, everything.
Raw chocolate, my favorite treat, is the highest superfood in the world.
We are in the middle of a global health crisis. The solution is right in your backyard.
But here's the twist. Our super angel can only invest half of what entrepreneurs need. The other half? That's where you come in. For the first time in television history, you, our audience, gets the chance to step in as an angel investor. Through our amazing crowdfunding platform, our viewers can invest as little as $100 or use their social media influence to earn actual equity in these startups. That's right. A TikTok post could buy you a real stake in the next world-changing company.
I would really like to support those kind of projects.
I'm asking $500,000 for 20% of the company.
$20 million for 20% of the business. $1 million for 1% or $3.5 million for 5%.
Looks like there is 2 types of people here. Those that want $100 million valuation and those that will get $100 million valuation.
They may be on the cusp of a big solution.
Every episode, we'll be spotlighting founders tackling the world's biggest challenges. Innovations that don't just save the planet, but improve how we live, connect, and thrive on it. The mission, profit with purpose.
I'm very impressed, Paul, with this pitch.
We believe this is a tremendous opportunity.
There's a good news for you as well. I think the idea is extraordinary.
But here's where it gets real. If the public doesn't step up with the other half of the funding, these deals die. This series culminates in a live finale where the results of the public investment are revealed. Will influencers drive enough social buzz? Will the audience complete the deal? The Deal Flow Show, a business competition for the next generation.
So that's a really good example of some amazing folks that are coming together, but in all reality, when they come together, they're doing it in an environment that is all around the world with different judges. But there's a stage that can actually launch individuals, families, assets, environments. It's lots of different things. It could be a film, just like the film festival. It could be a song. It could be an artist. And this is actually the Sundance app. So it's a life app. It'll have the same features and functionalities as regions and unions and countries and cities and you name it. So, but it's going to be particularly a little bit different approach, primarily because it's around voting and assets. But it is one of those same types of apps that other people can plug into. So this is the schedule tomorrow. So this is actually that horrible idea that I was telling you about that is somewhat difficult for folks. So it's going to be fun. You'll be able to see it, but it's basically Russian roulette to get an idea, and then they have to pitch it. So it's a fun environment to get to know the entrepreneurs, networking, lunch, and then it goes through some of the specifics of what we're talking about, how it works, and then pilots, and then it ties into a couple different artists. If you actually haven't heard of these artists, wonderful guys. This is one of them. So this is Alex. Fun stuff. This is, if you haven't heard some of the stuff, you might recognize this. That's actually tomorrow. It is at the Digital Center, which is the first event that we have that's launching within the High Star Ranch. It's a private community inside of the state of Utah, which is focusing on privacy. They're in legislation today, like literally right now. It started last week, about a week ago, actually, and they came at it. They're focused on all of the different parts and pieces that we have been working hard on over the year. And the goal is to, by this session, to have state endorsed digital identity as a standard for the state of Utah. And we've already got, out of the 12 states that flew in about 3 months ago, there are 3 others, maybe 4, that have committed to be able to be involved and recognize the state digital identity, which means that it can actually be a form of a standard asset, kind of like when concealed weapon permits were available. Some states are like, you know what, you can't carry in our state. Others are like, we'll give you reciprocity. So if you do, if you get one, we'll give you one, vice versa. So you're starting to see that stand up. And literally, I believe that this can change humanity. It can literally change some of the things that are actually happening and what's going on. There's a large ecosystem that this is actually going to help enable. This isn't just for funding certain digital businesses or digital organizations or digital assets, but it's how we can all come together and live, how things are purchased, how things are distributed, how people come together. We're grateful for those, particularly Sundance Strategies, which is actually a publicly traded company here in Utah, for lead role support and encouragement. Many decades this organization has been around, and goes back to the early days of the Sundance Film Festival, the institution. And we're grateful for some of those individuals that actually believe in some of the things that we're doing, primarily because the technology is very unique. We're also grateful for those that are involved with the Utah Life Pilot, which basically enables these decentralized systems to actually be adopted within society. How are things delivered? How are things registered? How are permits issued? How do you license? How do you get licensed? Whether they're plates or whether they're a specific license that you would hand out for X, Y, and Z. And the different sponsors, particularly Alpine Gold, which connects the physical world and the gold ecosystem and silver and others to the digital world. They're literally connecting those environments. They will be here as a hint. You know, there's folks that will not actually be able to get lunch or any kind of food unless they actually buy gold or they buy a digital asset with a Life app. And so literally 300 people will basically be scrambling to go and do this all at the same time. And it'll be fun to actually see it. We're grateful for some of those different resorts that are getting involved. We're grateful for even this little dinky, I think it's the simplest example, but Heritage Meats or Heritage Foods, but they're 47 years old and doing $40 to $50 million in meat in the state of Utah, grown here, fulfilled here. It's a good example of local distribution, and they actually understand the power of decentralized identity. A lot of different organizations that are getting behind it. And we're just grateful for those, especially CorpLogix. That's a big deal. It's recently been added. And then the artists that are actually part of this. You know, for me personally, I don't get involved a lot with those types of things. I don't watch TV. I don't play video games. I don't do the sports stuff. I don't feel like I work at all. So I love what we're doing with this building. But ultimately, there's a large opportunity to be able to help individuals to be able to see that they can actually own their own identity, own their own data, own their own storage, and then exchange it around the world and do it in such a way where there's not centralized systems in the middle of it. These are systems that have actually been stood up over the last 5 or 6 years, whether they're in regions or unions or countries or provinces or states. They're material, they're real. And now the Sundance Ventures and other Sundance ecosystems will literally come together to help fund a lot of these different businesses and ecosystems that have stood up. And we're grateful for those that have done so much to build an infrastructure that can actually make this thing come alive, like literally just be a part of the future for a future. Like there's a gentleman tonight who's like, what you're trying to solve is just too big. And there's no way we're going to solve it. And I was like, no, there is a way. It can work. It really can work. No, everyone's just screwed. No, I'm trying to convince them. No, it's not. Do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? We can't just give up on this. And for some of you know what I'm talking about. Some of you may just think it's what's this guy yakking about? But the point is it's very, very important, very valuable, very real. And let's see if I can jump in. There's actually another section that basically talks about the individual companies. The individual companies can actually be voted on. And I wish I had the URL. You know what? I can find it real fast. Just give me a second. We've been working on all these systems and I didn't have a lot of time to set up. So, but I will be able to find it. Just give me. By the way, I'm going to stop yakking here in a second. So if someone has comments here, this is an example of how these are the actual folks that are going to pitch tomorrow. So this is 4 of them. This is 4 of them. And the way that the voting process will work is someone will just say, hey, I really like what this individual, let's say right here, is doing, right? So you basically grab your Life app. And anybody on this, if you've already got a Life app open, anybody can scan it and it'll cryptographically tie to your world. You only get 1 vote, but you can move the votes around, so to speak. But you can see that actually changed and now his 50% went up just a bit. So that's a good example of voting, but what about actually purchasing and how does all of that work? It's a real simple process. You basically say, hey, let's say that this is XYZ asset. You would see the asset and you would literally be able to drop it in there. So they create digital businesses, they create digital assets, the assets load in here. And then let's say that you want to buy one. Well, they need to have an ability to actually log in, which I'll show for those that may be new. I'm going to use 5-factor authentication, log in with no usernames, no passwords, and all the data within my identity within different wallets, I can basically pull up and see how they are and move them around. So I can see, hey, these are currencies, equities, commodities, cryptos, whatever, but I want to take this and buy something different, and it will actually let me go through that process. Now, you can actually not only go through a process with one, but you can go through with others as well. So people can create businesses like what we were just showing you here. All of these individuals can create digital assets, which represents their digital capitalization structure. So it's cryptographically proven. And what we're doing at this Sundance Fund is showing the world how they can actually get a new form of funding. So literally they can go into their identity, they can start a business. When they start a business, then they can create an asset. When they create an asset, then they can get funded. And it basically flows through that process. It's really a very beautiful, beautiful future and beautiful reality. So with that being said, there's a lot of moving parts here, but does anybody have any questions, comments, feedback, thoughts, criticism, anything?
Yeah, I love the direction, Michael.
Awesome.
It's show business meets future of finance. I think it's a big improvement from the old clandestine ICO world that I've come out of. You know, a lot of those initial coin offerings with, based off a slide deck weren't very transparent, and this gives a really nice platform to engage with the founders and to test the ideas and validate the ideas through experienced entrepreneurs and through the wisdom of the crowd. So I think it's a very powerful platform, and love the branding and love the site. I know there's a lot of moving parts, but it's definitely the right direction.
Thank you for the feedback, and a lot of moving parts it is. What's funny is when we were setting up the shop today, these guys came in and said, "Hey, Mike, you need to meet this guy." And he's like, "Okay." He's like, "We're actually building the next Sundance." And on one hand, it's like we ask permission to work together. On the other hand, it's like you basically bring the environment because of the oxygen in the rooms being pulled out, so to speak. So how do you figure out how to work together? And on one hand, I can see us actually helping organizations like the film festival, and then also the state of Utah, but pulling it together based upon core competencies of what I believe the state of Utah will actually have in the future. It's not just the best snow on earth. Why? This year, the snow's like gone. Like it's just not even here. I mean, I've never seen a year like this. But really, the best privacy on earth is what Utah has. And if people can physically come here, and just like you're saying, Andy, if they can actually build real businesses that provide real value, especially local value, and then people say, I actually not only, let's say, not everybody's going to be able to invest, but some people can say, you know what, I know of that product. For instance, in this same valley, there is a wonderful lady who was a ballerina in New York. And she said, I'm done with New York. I'm done with the cities. I'm going to go and actually raise a family in a beautiful mountain area called Camas, Utah. And they call her Ballerina Farms, or they call it Ballerina Farms. And she's just done some amazing things to actually care about life. What do we put in our bodies? What do we put in our minds? How do we act as a in her case, as a wife and as a mother? And I just really think that when we start getting really real and we start connecting up what's really going on in the world, I believe that there's opportunities where the world will actually listen. And they listened to her. 10 million plus followers. She stood up a couple different, stores, one particular that's doing really well, but we hope to lock arms with people that actually want to know about this, but they may not be aware of it. And so with that being said, connecting in real value without, and for those that are not aware, my perspective of what you're talking about with crypto and ICOs, I think 98% of them are just straight hype and fraudulent realities where there's really no business and value behind it. And so the opportunity to take real businesses and real cap structures and real assets with real money, and even in local and remote communities, is what I believe is missing in an ecosystem that will drive the future economy, where people need to get out and actually innovate. They need to work. They need to add value. They need to actually be able to create some form of a real product, primarily because you're going to see AI and robots in particular, change the way that humanity has lived. And the industrial age and the work age and the knowledge age is all shifting. And I believe that taking technology that can enable the individual to be private, because what happens is, and most people don't understand this, but it's not about who you vote for and your political beliefs and your religious beliefs and whatever. Yes, we all have values and virtues as individuals and collectively as families and communities. But in all reality, it comes down to something very, very simple. It comes down to what you purchase, where it's from, and what you purchase it with. And when you choose to use these things, so for instance, Andy, you don't use these dollars in your part of the world, right? You use New Zealand dollars. And I think they're pretty cool, but the reality is they make these things and they don't cost a lot. Like this $10 bill probably costs, what do you think? 1/10 of a cent to make, right? So we understand that there's financial pressures that are going on in the world. We understand that banks are having different reality, primarily because of fractional bank lending. We understand gold and silver and things that are actually going to have true value to it. But ultimately, the value is the individual. And when we start realizing that with systems like what I've been trying to articulate here, with systems where the individual owns their own identity, they literally can become free. When they're actually putting their own assets into their own world, they can literally become free. When it is not fractional bank lending with liquidity pools and market makers, but it is 100% redeemable real time, there's a future that's there. And the reality is we're sitting on a precipice, a perfect storm where these types of things can actually take place. And, you know, whether you talk about marketing or whether you talk about, you know, connecting up different physical worlds with a digital world, this Sundance Funding Festival is a perfect example of what the future can actually hold and how people can actually start building and working together. So with that being said, next comment, thought, perspective, observation, anything.
Well, it's great to be on the opposite side from you. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, it's a real honor to experience firsthand, hands-on the events that are going forward and watching it at light speed. I want to state that we're in the midst of understanding ecosystems, and what I mean by ecosystems are communities, and what I mean by communities mean individuals. So every one of us have this thought about how currency moves and how we do exchange. And we're so used to doing it through our normal banking models. But because of decentralization and because of blockchain, we're able to transfer value, value for value, which is true capitalism. And we're giving tools. That's really what this is a how do you call it, the pitchfork and just the tools in order for us to exchange. We didn't have that before. It's not scary when you really think about how an engine works. The engine works. We don't all need to know how the engine works. We just need to know how to get into the car, how to go into the storefront, and how to purchase things of value. And because we understand our time is valuable, and who we exchange with allows us to have that true exchange of energy that allows us to have our own currency. Because the engine allows us to have our own currency, think about that. Our tokenizing of our real world asset basically means digitizing your deeds, your license, your certificate, your identity, all of that is now exchangeable in fractions, just like $1 to $100 bill. Once we all individually start to recognize that, it starts to become normalized. And I believe what's happening right now is we're bridging that gap through ecosystems like fun events, which have a lot of people, lots of individuals, and individuals download a wallet. Those individuals download that wallet, but there's so much more underneath that hood, right? So think about it. It looks great from the candy store on the outside. Come to the event. Once you're inside the event, you eat the candy and you want to have more. I hope that makes sense. We're really trying to make it lighthearted right now because it can be very deep. And I know for a lot of us who've been through this journey for a long time, we're really passionate about it, and it could become very serious to us. It's actually life matters. But lightheartedly, it's really can be fun. So I thought I'd just bring in my 2 cents on that. It's not an easy thing to learn. Learning can be hard, but once you get it, I tell you, it's just so much fun. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone.
You're still here. You should be going home. Any other thoughts or comments? Thank you so much, Brandy. Feedback, observations, criticism, anything. Your voice matters. Now's your time. Any kind of caution, maybe this is a fragmentation of focus. We're not in the events business. Maybe it's a brand that shouldn't be something that we're focused on. Maybe it's tied to things that are of the past. Anything, any thoughts, comments, feedback? Now's your time.
I'm Tony. I'm curious how far along your TV show is. It caught my attention.
So that TV show is actually the first parts of 17 series. And inside of the events that you're going to start seeing, it actually has a TV part of it as well. So it's a reality TV that'll actually be a series. And there currently are some distribution processes that they're in the works with. There's already been one full show that's been shot, and they're waiting to just release it on one of those distribution points. But good question. Welcome, Tony. It's nice to have you. What part
Just so you know, I'm a distributor.
are you? Yeah.
I am. Brandy knows. Brandy and Scott know me.
Yeah, so maybe there's a good fit there. I mean, this is something that we're really trying to help people know. Hey, you know, you have Start Engine, you have all these different funding processes and platforms, and then you've got Shark Tank. This is really, you know, both of those platforms, crowdfunding platforms, AngelList, etc., and then Shark Tank and others that are similar, but meets technology in the middle that meets compliance and regulation on a global standpoint, accredited or non-accredited investors, it's all solved. And how do you actually do it at scale with real world interaction where the actual, literally an individual online scanning through their TV can actually have an opinion and make an investment and get the asset in real time. That's unheard of. No one's ever even come close to that in the world. And we actually are going to launch it and announce it, show it real time tomorrow. But you know, this first video that we showed earlier is actually, it actually works that same way, but we're looking for a distributor. So if you're a distributor, we'd love to talk with you. Thank you for joining. Yeah. Other thoughts or comments?
Absolutely.
What's that, Tony? Say again. What'd you say?
I said absolutely. I definitely Scott and Brandy know how to get a hold of me. So I would help anyway. And it was really intriguing. We worked with a lot of shows and in various forms. You put a bunch of shows together. And at first I was like, Shark Tank. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, here's the twist. And then you even said, here's the twist. But when you brought in the crowdsource part, I love that because people like to interact and they like to participate. You know, I know Scott and Brandy have shown me some cool things that they're able to do in real time with shows. And so I think with that team and what you guys are doing, I think you've got a winner there. And I'd love to do a deeper dive with you guys when you guys have time. But enjoy Sundance.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here and for seeing it. Not a lot of people do. Anybody next?
Yeah. Hey, Michael, it's Andy here. I just go again. I actually got to jump off shortly. So I think it's as I said before, it's a wonderful point of engagement, and from a media comms point of view, I think you've nailed it. If I step back though, I think there's kind of two things I see here with the Clear Digital World story. You've got the big picture, the big prize, which is you know, human sovereignty, ownership, privacy, all the things we need to be safe and secure and empowered in this AI-powered world that they're building in front of us. And that's a big prize, but it's hard to obtain in one hit, you know. But I think you're doing an amazing job in Utah with getting the state on board and getting the legal frameworks you need to support that. And, you know, that can scale, certainly if you've got the backing of the lawmakers. But, you know, from a community, you know, bottom-up point of view, you need to be solving real problems for real people in real time every day. And give you an example, you know, if you look at Venezuela, where they've got the Bitcoin beach, which is really only... it's a great project and it's a cool thing that's going on there, but it's really only consumable by the tech bros or by the crypto bros. It's not really usable for everyday people because, you know, from a usability, convenience, user experience, because customer experience point of view. And so I think if what I'd like to see more of is more real world applications which are really easy to use for everyday people, solving real problems every day. And I know you've got a lot of examples, but that's the thing I'd like to see heroed, and I think that will help drive the the engagement even on the Sundance Funding Festival. I think that makes it real for people, and then you end up with founders who are solving real problems, doing cool stuff with the technology, and it kind of helps drive it from the bottom up.
Yeah, you're spot on. And this particular thing, what you're talking about with Bitcoin Beach, is actually in, if I remember right, it's in like Ecuador or
I think it's Venezuela. Isn't
I don't think it's
it Guatemala?
Venezuela.
I thought it was Venezuela.
I don't think it's Venezuela.
No.
El Salvador, it's in El
El
Salvador.
Salvador. I mean El Salvador. I could cut my wires crossed. I've been sitting in Fiji today, so I was thinking.
Oh, are you in Fiji?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No,
So-
I've been working with some
Oh.
Fijians today, so I get my wires crossed. Yeah.
So for those
No, it's
that-
definitely El Salvador.
For
Yeah.
those that may not be aware, we actually did roll out a system for Venezuela. This is actually
Yeah,
what it
that's
looks
where I
like.
got confused.
it
Yeah.
may have been
That's where I got
confused. So the difference between the system in Venezuela and the system that you're talking about with this beach system is, one, this is actually running off of Bitcoin, which I think is really brilliant, and they're one of the first ecosystems to do it. But the way that they rolled it out, when they finally figured out that Bitcoin takes about 10 minutes on average to transfer, they figured out that they got to layer on a different technology. And they know what they picked? They picked the Lightning Network. And the Lightning Network is actually something that will enslave humanity. It centralizes decentralization. And I know there may be folks that don't want to hear that, but that's the reality. You're literally centralizing decentralization. You're taking someone's private or public key, not their private key, and you're linking it with their name or their phone number or an address, or at least two identifiers that basically with AI, it'll centralize it. And so that's what's happening here with El Salvador versus what can happen in Venezuela. And I think that's why you're getting confused, because we talked a little bit about this is Venezuela's environment. They can literally log in, they can literally transact one-to-one, and they can literally own and control their own identity and their own data. For those that are, Spanish, or this natively, it comes up as this. So this is a system that they can literally, I know that they're going through a lot of transition, whether it's voting, whether it's assets, whether it's banking, the future of banking, where they are their bank, but the ability for them to actually go and log in and actually have their assets, the ability to actually transact. So I'll go ahead and just click here real fast. So literally I'll log in, you can see assets, I can send a transfer, and I'm doing it all off of a very slow connection, so to speak. So I'm literally just going to click here, 5-factor authentication, 1, 2, 3, verified with my finger. I'm in, no usernames, no passwords. And as a matter of fact, the whole future of that is a whole nother conversation, which you're going to love. You can grab an asset. You've got currencies, equities, commodities. You've got a portfolio. This is assets that you own. No one can take them from you, but you can say, you know what? I don't want, let's say I don't want to be in US dollars. I want to go into silver. Literally, it's just as simple as that. You can say, I'm just going to buy $100 and boom, transfer, go ahead and scan it. And when they actually do this, this is real-time transferring. I put my fingerprint on here, I verify who I am. It's not just the keys or derived keys, but it literally transfers real time. That transaction actually settled. Go ahead.
Michael, I don't think we can see your screen. Can you guys see the screen?
I can see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
I can see it.
So what's neat is the assets are actually transferring, and then you can see how's it actually valued. Is it going up? Is it going down? And the individual has the opportunity to manage their assets that they own. Have you ever put money in a bank and it's like water on a hot skillet? It goes in and just disappears. It's just gone. Sometimes it's like, well, I didn't realize I was spending that and I just didn't do the math right, but where did it all go? Or other times it's like, I didn't authorize that and I don't know what this is. And do I really want to call the bank and tell them that the credit card has some unauthorized charges? Because then they just cancel it. And then I got to go reset it all up with all these other new vendors. What if those days are over and your assets are your assets? They only go where you want them to go. And you can even say, hey, I actually want someone else to manage the assets. With a click of a button. You can have a life reserve that actually manages it with money managers that not only manage simple things like mutual funds, but they've managed full-blown treasuries for big countries, not just one, but many. Their hearts are good, even though I'm perturbed, because that's a different conversation. But the point that I'm trying to drive at here is you can actually have stability in a world of chaos. This line here represents the US dollar in its decline. We're not making numbers up. This is real numbers on a couple comparisons. 1, the US dollar in red, bottom line. 2, the S&P 500. You can see how that's done. 3, gold, which has actually done pretty well this year. for Bitcoin, done decent as well. But ultimately, what you see is a stable asset called the life reserve within the digital world that basically people can say, hey, I'll just put it on autopilot. But if I want to, I can actually take these assets. I'm going to go back to the Venezuela environment. I can take these assets and break them apart and manage them on my own. So, and it's not just an asset that someone else created. You can create your own. You create your own business. There may not be businesses in here. So you create your own businesses, you create your own assets, then you can get funding with these assets. And that's the big aha that this whole platform opens up to the world. And think about it. Think about if, for those like Tony, think about using a platform like this, not for a country or a show, but for crowdfunding. There's massive, massive potentials on many, many levels. And this is, I've literally just talked about the first 12 to 15% of the potentials. The key is the individual must own their own identity. And when the individual can own their own identity, and then finances, and then data, and then communications. And oh, by the way, what if you could actually get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars? And I know this is going to sound crazy, but stay tuned. If you could actually get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for the data that you've already given away because they don't give it back the right way. And then you can start managing your own identity, your own data. And when you have your own storage, you can start passing it from generation to generation. My mother-in-law was just diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and given 2 months to live. She didn't embrace technology from her perspective of lot, but I would argue that she has a massive, massive diagnostic trail of who she is that shouldn't just disappear. The memories, the experiences. And now with AI, you can take things such as your apps. You know, maybe it's contacts, maybe it's calendars, maybe it's what you search, maybe it's what you read, maybe it's journaling. I have a dear friend that's telling me, hey, I like to journal, but I don't want it to do it on Apple's terms. And there's a real business that could be built inside of this. I believe there's going to be tons of businesses and concepts because the existing software infrastructure has to be rebuilt. And you can rebuild it with AI pointing at a documentation section, which, by the way, this is the new doc system where you can look at the different, or I want to work within this layer. And you can literally build applications. You can build experiences on top of these types of systems. And you can do it based upon standards that are open source, that you own, that the world doesn't take from you. A state doesn't know when you use an identity. They can't take it away from you. Maybe the transactions are public, everyone can see them, but your identity is private. And when we really start understanding the power of that, so think about it. How many of you actually get to file taxes in whatever part of the world you're in? Tax returns is what they call them. And there's a lot of data that you go throughout in your life and you say, hey, well, did I do this? Or how did this work? Or how do I get a report? And what if I told you that it could be very, very simple from just saying, you know, go ahead and click on tax and you basically put in a public key and a sort, you sign up for service. And the next thing you know, it doesn't matter if you have assets in different parts of the world, a simple form can automatically get filled out for you depending on what jurisdiction you're in. I know we got people from Africa and Canada and from New Zealand and from Aotearoa and from the US. They all have different taxing authorities. You know what? They change them every year. But technology can seamlessly, you have to link the two. And when you start linking the two, but you can do it privately. For instance, in the state of Utah, they've literally approved for a decentralized autonomous organization to be created and the individual to be private. Now, what if you could actually file your taxes and it be private? This social security number actually filed and actually either paid or didn't pay, whatever, but it can be automated. So what I'm saying is when we understand what AI can actually do, it can enslave us or it can free us, but you've got to have an individual in the center of it that owns their own data based upon laws that are real laws in real jurisdictions in real life. The Digital Choice Act, the Private Membership Association Act, the Currency Innovation Act, which ties to silver and gold, House Bill 470 or Senate Bill 260 or SETI, State Endorsed Digital Identity. In my opinion, Utah can lead the world and the world can follow a standard. It's not, they got to spend a ton of money. It's like it's already been standardized. They can just adopt a platform and they have retribution. For instance, a prime minister of a country 2 days ago reached out to me and says, Mike, do you know these people in this country? I says, yeah. And he says, well, they're looking to do a type of a treaty with us. And what's beautiful is if they're using the same technologies, and they say the individual can own their own identity and their own data, think about what that means. If a government says we will actually recognize them as an individual private entity, but we will endorse them and give them safe harbor, and then they build a treaty with another organization that endorses the same thing, that is freedom. And it takes one state, one providence, one country, one kingdom, one union, all at a time to be able to stand this up. In the digital world, for those of you that may not have been aware, this is not just starting up. We're already well into phase 2, which is basically we've already met with 28 countries in the Pacific. 10 of them are rolling out. I can go through who they are, but it is literally, we met with the BRICS countries, each of them except for one, physically in their country for a week to a month before COVID. Like when you really understand the depth and the history, and like the gentleman today, he was really brilliant. His name was Mark. But he just was like, I know too much. I don't believe that you can be successful. I don't believe that the individual can actually be free. And I thought to myself, you know me, I'll yak and say, no, it can happen. It can. But I just remember being quiet and just listening to him and thinking that must be a really sad perspective, like hopeless. And I think about how many people in the world just kind of watch what's happening. Like I watched a gal this last week that was like trying to download an app and she couldn't even download it because she couldn't put money onto a card to do other things to verify an identity to be able to get an app. And we just think that this is normal and this is okay. And I don't want to say that, oh, the sky's falling because we can't download an app or this, but it's not what's happening today. It's seeing into the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. When we talk about AI and robotics and in centralized systems, we must be responsible. We must have some values, some virtues, and some alignment for our brother and sister around the world. Because why? We really are one big family. Even though you got people punching this and fighting that and shooting this and blowing that up and talking, no, we're here together on one earth. And the sooner that we realize that and we actually serve one another, I believe the better off the future generations are actually going to have it. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and let the audience wrap up any kind of comments that they want to leave or observations or feedback or anything that you'd like to discuss. The time is now yours, and then we'll have a closing prayer, and we'll see you next week after the party starts tomorrow. Any thoughts or closing comments?
Well, thank you for inviting us, Brandy. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you guys opening and closing with a prayer. I also want to mention we're working with Kevin Costner. I know he's got a restaurant and a soundstage out there. Have you guys thought about teaming up with him?
No, let's do it. Let's do it. I didn't know any of that.
All right.
I love Kevin Costner.
Yeah, so he's opening a soundstage and a themed restaurant based on all of his movies out there.
That's awesome. The world needs another one of
Yeah.
those. Yeah, we're
Thank you so much, guys.
We're just 10 minutes from the film studio in Park City, so we're right in the middle of all of it. Go ahead, Nick.
Tony does a wonderful, he's with my practitioner and my mentor, Michael Beckwith, one of my spiritual kindreds. Tony, would you like to do a closing prayer?
Sure, when the time's, I guess, appropriate. I don't do it like Agape. I do it more Christian based, but as long as you guys are okay with that. I know Michael had already chosen someone for the closing prayer, though.
No,
Randy.
Tony, please, you got this.
All right, are we at that point?
We're at that point. You okay with that, Tony?
Well, you guys, thank you for the gathering. Dear Lord, I'm just so grateful to be invited to meet new people. And where there's one, there's 100 more that just need to hear the message. And this group sharing your word and leading with you first is always a way to go. And so I look forward to learning more about what they do and everybody on this as we get to know each other. We all have resources that we share, and when we share, we all grow together. And I'm just grateful to be part of this. And may you all be blessed at Sundance this year. And we say goodnight to Robert, as this is his last Sundance. And as the event moves to Colorado, that his essence and this presence continues to grow where they're at. And I'm just grateful to be part of it. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Tony, thank you.
Thank you, Michael, once again. Thank you for all of the efforts and the persistency. And I'm so happy to be a part of this family. I already know it's already done. I already know it. I'm like celebrating everything right now. You have no idea how the universe has brought me here on the 19th. I was supposed to be here on the 22nd. I got a ton of events, and all I could focus on is this moment to just be a part of the joy. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next week, same time, and we look forward to reporting out on this next week's progress. It's going to be the event tomorrow that's going to kick off the last dance, the last Sundance showing here in Utah. And in my opinion, legacies, especially like any of us, even all the way up to Robert Redford, we all have a story, we all have a history, and we're not to be forgotten. And I believe that the power of technology can actually help us in ways that we may not understand or realize. And I just think it's getting started. It is so exciting. I mean, when I was born, none of this stuff was here. By the time I die, there's so much stuff that's happened, but it's exciting for future generations. And when we talk about this digital world, it's got to do just one thing really, really well, but for a long time, and that's identity. It's got to nail identity for 1,000 years plus. And if we do that, we have literally succeeded. And who knows, this video may be something that they watch in an archive 20 years from now or 200 years from now and think, you know, there was I look at, there was a lady, and this is another thing that actually just transpired this last week. I got arrested for the first time in my life. It was the coolest thing. They put handcuffs on me and everything. It was like crazy. But Mrs. Parks on the bus, right? And by the way, yesterday was Martin Luther King's birthday. And you got this, was it Rosa Parks? It was Rosa Parks on a bus. And she says, I'm not going to move to the back of the bus. And I basically, this last week, I said, because you got to realize, I know I've been in the healthcare world, I've been in the identity world, and somebody asked for an ID, and I says, that's not right. And I said, I want services from you, but I don't want to give you my ID. And I just kept pushing it. I was like, no, you can't do that. And so I pulled up the law and says, this is what it is. And he says, no, you have to give us that, your ID. And I said, no, I'm not going to. And they basically called the police, and they said that because I wouldn't give an ID, I was trespassing. And then the officer gave me, so my point is I get to go to court, and I get to basically talk to the world, at least the judge. It'll probably be a process, but through this process, we're gonna go through, and actually, one, I'll get it thrown out, both charges thrown out, and then, because by the way, and I know this may sound really controversial, but over the next 5 years, I anticipate lawsuits that are crazy, like tons of them, with that social company, that health company, that police department. But we've got to stand up and do it in a way that is respectful, that is, and I'm not saying that we go stand in the streets or stop traffic or we throw things. What I'm saying is we intelligently organize ourselves and our data, and we understand what freedom is. You know, just yesterday, I was driving and I saw these deer running across the street, and I just pulled over and I just watched them. I turned off the rig and I just watched them. I watched them eat and just live and just be. And I thought, how would it be to be free like a deer? Like, they don't have the same pressures that we do. Now, granted, and then the thought was, well, they just get run over and they don't go on the side. You know, my point is there's an element of freedom that we just don't have, and we don't even see it. And I look forward to a day, even though we may have to stand up, we may have to get handcuffs on to go to a point, and hopefully I'm not the one in handcuffs, but the key is we got to do what's right. And if that means standing up, you know, I don't want to say it in defiance, but knowing the laws, because I think a couple of these things, they may take a year in the legal system, but there has to be a precedence that's set, and we have to then continue to follow through. So the organization that wouldn't deliver the services, even though that was their duty, it was a public ecosystem. When we push back on that, then it pushes back on the state, And I believe that's the only way to actually change it, because the net is we must be law-abiding individuals or citizens, or whatever. A lot of people look at themselves as non-citizens and other things, and nationals, etc. But we must abide by the law of whatever jurisdiction that we live in. But that being said, that doesn't mean that we can't change the law, that we can't be a part of that change. And for everyone that's listening, for everyone that shows up, you're being a part of it. Even just the energy that you give, and even just saying, hey, this doesn't sound right, or that sounds good, or connect to these people. That energy is what Sundance, I believe, stood for. I believe that's what Robert Redford would want to see in the future. For those of you that don't know, like literally, I asked my wife to marry me at Sundance almost 30 years ago. And every Valentine's Day, which is when I asked her to marry me, I basically take her back to that same restaurant. And even in COVID, like they were in COVID, and they're like, we're not open on Valentine's Day, and we're not open because of COVID. And I says, no, what's the dollar amount? We open the whole restaurant up just for us. And my point is there's a place and there's a time around, whether it's rituals that you have or some form of sacredness, some form of tradition. We must not give up the things that we value in life. We must stand for things that are true, and virtues are true. Freedom is true. It's some people argue, well, you don't have a right to be private. No, it's not a matter of fighting for privacy. That's not what this is about, or secrecy. It's a matter of being able to be an individual that's not centralized in a system. And maybe it's just because I've only been in technology for my whole adult life, for 31 years, that I can see it so clear as day that the way that records are managed will only enslave us. There is no positive that will come from it. I don't think there's massive progress that's going to come from layering health with a lot of the data that is private data. Now, health in general is really good, and I think AI is going to do some amazing things. Even robots will do some amazing things. But it's the private data that links it that I actually think will hurt us in the end. And I know many of you may not understand what that is. But when you take a PCR test up your nose, you're actually taking MIBs that can be scanned with DNA sequences, and that can actually be positive or negative. And I believe that there are secret combinations that actually don't want the type of population that's here. And as sad as that sounds, I believe that we need to stand up for those that are being targeted and have already been targeted. All you have to do is look at the reproductive rates that have gone on inside society. Like, it's collapsing. It is collapsing. We have to ask ourselves why. And I'm not just saying it's the poke. There's so much more to it than that. But we've been given a gift, all of us, and it's not just time. Because we can come to earth and we can use our time, but we've been given life. And each of us have been given the opportunity to also become a part of life. I'm sitting in a room with a man that I respect tremendously. Him and his wife have been married for 15, 20 years, and they can't have children of their own. They didn't make wrong choices. They didn't get some disease that stops it. They didn't get some vaccine that stops it. But for whatever reason, that one thing that they want as a husband and a wife has not become a reality. They grab a dog, they grab a friend. But I can only imagine, as a father of 6 beautiful kids, that I was able to bring life into this world, and even then some. I can only imagine the difficulty. Because for me, as a man, as a husband, as a driver, that's something that's embedded in all of us. And whether we want to face it, some people are like, I don't want to deal with that. It's just pain. I talked to an assistant this morning, and she never had kids. She got married. It's just choice. And I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. All I'm saying is we have life to live. And Sundance talks about that: the sun, the life, the energy, the dance, the movement, and how we come together. And when we talk about this digital world and this life app that ties everyone together, proof of life will set us free, where we think proof of work with Bitcoin was actually the beginning. Yeah, there may be 10 or $4 trillion that's been pumped into it, 3 trillion plus. But I believe it is just a litmus test and a proof and an example. And the systems that we showed you here today can actually be that real reality that Andy was talking about, and how we can actually come together and start using it. And that's why, even though we're not an events-based organization, as a matter of fact, we got no clue what we're doing. We really don't. Today, we started off in a conference room with 3 different paths: a presentation, a website, and a doc, and then a Canva thing. All these different paths. By the time we were done, there was a clear vision on how that was aligned. We had mics and speakers and conferences and 300 seats and tables set up and couches and lights, and we're ready to push action tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to work, but all I know is each one of us gets a new day, and what we choose to do with our life really matters, especially when it comes to what we do for future generations. And I thank you all for being here and for caring. And I thank this man here in my office for being an example that makes me want to have just massive appreciation for simple gifts that we all take for granted. At least I take for granted simple things, health and fresh air and water and just bodies that go. And, anyways, I'll stop blabbing, but I think sometimes, like Tony and the prayer and just having gratitude can actually set us on a trajectory that will make this reality a success, because it's all of us that have to come together against these simple, small secret combinations. And I know, just like this other dude that was like, Mike, it's never going to work. You're never going to be able to do it. The problem's too big. The water's too hot. We're already boiling in it. There's no way to get out. I'm like, no, there is. There is. And I'll see you next week. Much love, everybody. We'll talk to you later.